John, we're going to try to go through a few different generations of golf here
Okay.
over the next segment. And, we know you've had the great fortune to be around some of the legends of the game. Obviously, with Ken Venturi as your instructor, and with him as a youngster being taught by Byron Nelson, mentored by Ben Hogan. Can you shed some light on how they may have influenced his fundamentals and how he learned to play?
Yeah, I was, fortunate, lucky, blessed, really, to have Ken Venturi come into my life when I was 14. My father was in auto racing after he got out of coaching, and Kenny was a big race fan, and my dad and Kenny got to strike up a pretty good friendship, and Kenny, my dad invited Kenny up to Laguna Seca to go through some tire testing with Firestone, and Kenny had this Cobra at the time, one of the original Cobras. I think we all kind of remember those little cars that had about a billion horsepower, and a car weighed about 500 pounds. So it was a rocket on wheels, basically. But so my dad brought him up, and he changed the tires out on his car and let Kenny run the track in his car on real racing tires. And Kenny thought it was like the greatest day of his life. And he said, "Hey, what can I ever do to repay you?" And my dad says, "As a matter of fact," and like Kenny hasn't heard 1,000 times, or great professionals like Eddie Mehrens and. Hey, I got this kid. My son is really good, 14-year-old player. I'd really like to have you take a look at him, one of those deals. And Kenny said, "Oh, God, okay, all right, great." And he said, "Well, by the way, we bought a place at Mission Hills, and Mission Hills has just opened, and Kenny was the first director of golf there. So he said, fine, just, have him here at, whatever time it was to, has to be nice, right, yeah. So one thing led to another. I ended up getting to meet Kenny, and there's some funny stories in there. But one thing he said, and he kind of challenged me right away, and that was, "I've got some work to do in the office. Why don't you go down, and if you would be kind enough, just walk around the perimeter of the practice tee and pitch the balls back into the range, so the range picker can pick the golf balls up and not have to go all the way around and do all that, because quite frankly, some of my members just can't keep the ball on the range. So there's hundreds of golf balls outside the perimeter of the range. Remember Mission Hills way back when, before the Pete Dye course was even there, it was just a big piece of grass out in the middle of the desert. So I went ahead and did that. I went ahead and pitched balls back into the range, and then I met him we would always go to the left corner of the tee over there. He came out. Well, and we started to, hit some balls. He wanted to see me hit some balls first, but he told me later on that he didn't go back to his office. He got in his cart and went behind the range shed to watch me and see if I actually did this. And, did I understand what he was trying to say, and would I go around and do this? I was, came from a nice family in Rolling Hills, and, is it beneath him to go pitch balls back into the range? No, it's what he told me to do, so I went ahead and did it. He didn't tell me that for about 20 years. What he was challenging me to see if I was going to listen to him, number one. So from then on, everything he really told me I listened to, because I just wanted to get better. And the more he talked about Byron, and the more he talked about Mr. Hogan, the more I knew this was the direction I was going to go. And like I said earlier, we would hit some balls. We did work on some things, some very, very fundamental. My swing has always been pretty fundamental, and that was from a big influence from Ken. But as I grew, we started to maneuver into some different areas. But we would hit a few balls, and then we would go to the first tee, and we would play golf. And I would watch him where he teed the ball up on certain holes, shots he was trying to play, all stuff he learned from Byron. When they played together and traveled together and worked together. And of course, Kenny played a lot of golf, practice round golf, mostly with with Mr. Hogan when they were out playing in tournaments. So, you know, that lineage, you know, I was a 14-year-old kid. Am I going to challenge Ben Hogan, Byron Nelson, and Ken Venturi? I don't think so. And I didn't ever.
Probably wouldn't be sitting there.
No, I wouldn't, not even close would I be sitting here if I didn't have that.
Well, that's a really, really neat story. Can you tell us a little bit more about what it was like? I mean, when you're playing golf with him, is he talking you through what he's thinking and what he's doing, or was it more he's playing, you're playing, were you playing against each other?
A little bit of all of that, Shar. It started out where we would just be playing by ourselves. Someone from the club might join us, but we were never really having games. We were working on things on the golf course. Like I said, I was observing. You know, why do you go to the left side of the tee here? Why did you go to the right side of the tee? Why did you use a tee on this par 3? Why didn't you use a tee on this other par 3? You know, just things I was trying to learn. And these are through the years. This is, you know, I worked with Kenny until he basically couldn't work anymore. So I was just basically observing. As the years went on and I started seeing him more in college, when I went back to Columbus, he had then gone from the desert to Marco Island, and it was easy to get me from Columbus to Marco Island in January. That was okay. I was fine with that. That's when he would be bringing some of the other professionals in and working a little bit with George Burns, Morris Satulski, Terry Deal, a couple of Billy Kratzert would come down. And we would then be playing with them, but I'd be playing against them with Kenny. So Kenny could still really play. This is the middle, late 70s, early 80s. So he was still quite competitive, and he kind of got his juices flowing when we were down there playing. And we would beat them pretty significantly and quite often. So I had pretty much a pocket full of cash going back up to Columbus for the winter time. It gets a little cold up there. You know, you got to have some fortification there. In this.
I like it. Well, it sounds kind of neat. We're going to get a little more into kind of the stable of golfers here, but it sounds a little bit similar to kind of what's going on at Virginia, which is really neat, and how everybody can kind of push each other and
yes,
you know, learning different types of shots.
He pushed me. He really did. And again, I didn't have to be pushed that hard because I had that instilled in me from my father, being a coach. And you know, just he thought you win events and you win tournaments through preparation, that you prepare as you will play. Kenny was all about that. How you don't just grab a ball and hit it, grab a ball and hit it. You methodically go through exactly what you're going to do on the golf course. And one of his big things that I learned early on was just that. How you take your golf swing and make it and get it into golf. How do you get from that practice tee to the first tee? And he would have me do it as I was practicing. So I just didn't grab a ball and hit it, grab a ball and hit it. I took a golf ball, and then I was picturing a shot. I went through a little bit of a routine, basically what I would actually do on the golf course. So by the time I got to that first tee, I was already rehearsed in what I was going to be doing on the golf course. So I didn't get on the first tee and go, okay, now what? What's my routine? Well, I just did it for 50 balls. So that's how I prepared to get on the golf course.
So it sounds like all this data now that we have access to is about randomized practice and the value of that, and that being a really key ingredient in taking the golf from the driving range to the golf course. And here, I mean, standing on a driving range as a 14-year-old,
yeah.
Sounds like Mr. Venturi had already figured that out and was able to teach you to do that at a very young age. Yeah,
the drills that we would do really, had to do with, hitting 2 or 3 different shots to the same target. Rarely would I hit golf balls out to like the 150 sign, or he would always have me curving something into and around into the tree, or cutting up against the right side of the range. Always trying to hit some sort of shape type of shot, and learning how to do that and have control of that club face. He was really adamant about controlling the club face. And what produces what, at what time, and when do you use it? He always talked about, don't use it if you don't see it. If you don't see it, don't force it. Go to that straight ball. We can know how you can hit a straight ball, But if you don't see that shot or that curve or its conditions aren't right, don't do it. And so those are the things I learned.
It's pretty amazing. Was that something he was able to teach more through sensations, or was it technical, or what was
A little bit technical, but he would talk about your eye. Trust your eye. You've got a good eye. You're a quarterback. You're a really good free throw shooter. You're a good shooter. So you must have some sort of eye, hand-eye coordination. He said, trust that. Trust your athletic ability. And so that's basically, if I didn't see that type of a shot with my eye or with my feel, I would just set it out to the middle of the green and take what you get.
So was it early on that you got to meet Mr. Hogan and Mr. Nelson, or through Mr. Venturi, or was that something that happened later in your career?
I met Mr. Nelson pretty early. I had just gotten to college, and I think Byron was visiting Kenny in Florida. So I was in college and got to spend a lot of time with Byron. Actually got to play some holes with Byron. He was still pretty active. And then in 1981, this is actually a pretty funny story, I got to meet Mr. Hogan. I wasn't with Hogan at the time. I was with McGregor. I was with Hogan a little bit later on. Then I got to spend a lot of time with Mr. Hogan. But I had played an early pro-am at Colonial, as Amy was talking about. I know that shot at number 9. I lived in that bunker. I kept my lower body nice and still, and I always hit nice and shots. So. So I played an early pro-am in 1981 at Colonial, and Kenny said, hey, come with me over to Shady Oaks. We're going to go have some lunch with Ben. And I went, okay, cool. Yeah, this will be nice. And he was quite nice, and he was still fairly active. He was hitting golf balls at the time, so we had a little bit of lunch, and he was actually quite nice to me. And I'd heard how gruff he could be with people he didn't already know, or if you weren't with the Hogan company, it was that. But he trusted Kenny so much and loved him so much that he felt that I was worthy of sitting around and having lunch with him. I didn't say a word. I didn't really know how to talk at that time. I didn't really talk much. So there was no real threat to him. And then Ben said, hey, Kenny, I'm working on this thing. It's driving me crazy. Watch me hit some balls, would you? And Kenny said, sure, Ben, sure. Yeah, I'll come watch you hit some balls. And Kenny said, mind if John comes along? He goes, if he doesn't say anything. I said, all right. Cool, I'll just sit in that little golf cart. They didn't even have wheels yet. They had the little things on the front, and he wheeled around the three-wheeled golf carts. And so we went down to the range, and he took his shag guy down to the range. He was working on, turning the toe of the club. I mean, it's things that I'd heard from day one working with Venturi. Flash me the toe, turn that toe, that whole thing. And Ben was doing the same thing, and he was just hitting these just peas out there right at this guy. One step here, one step there, put the ball in the bag, go back 15 yards, one step here, one step there, put the ball in the bag. I'm just watching this going, wow, this is the sound and the compression and the flight. And he would look back at Kenny every once in a while and go, what'd that look like? He said, yeah, that's close. I think you're getting it. He says, well, okay, do this one. So he takes out these 2 irons, and he's just flushing these things out there. And Kenny says, yeah, that looks good, Ben. All right. Okay, good. So we got in the carts and walked back off. So that was, the first time I got, playing with Ben or not playing, but gotten to see him hit golf balls. And then I signed with Hogan in 1985, and we got to spend a lot more time with him then. But Byron was always wrote me little notes, and after every win or something, he was always, one of the first notes I would get would be from Ben, or from Byron. So I was, again, fortunate, blessed, lucky to have that lineage come down in my life.
Absolutely. Well, it got pretty good from there too. So tell us a little bit about your decision to attend college at The Ohio State University, and we know there were a couple of heavy influencers there.
Yeah. So the correlation really goes way back. My dad was born and raised in Central Ohio, right around Columbus, and he was a, 4-star, 4-sport he was a good athlete. We'll just leave it at that. But he played football at Denison University, which is a small school outside of Columbus. But then he went to graduate school at Ohio State, and he wanted to stay in football, and so he became a graduate assistant for Ohio State football team. So he got to know Woody Hayes pretty well. So Dad went around the state of Ohio as a high school football coach and ended up back at Ohio State as an assistant football coach. He was the line coach, offensive line coach. Bo Schembechler was the headline coach. My dad was Schembechler's assistant. So that's where the big Ohio State tie comes. Dad went up to Akron then to be assistant head football coach at Akron U, and being an assistant head football coach, head baseball coach, teaching math, having 2 kids, and making $22,500 a year pretty much wasn't really going to work. So he took a job with Firestone, and he got so good at what he was doing there, they moved us out, and he was the head of the racing division out here in Southern California. So that's where that came along. But you know, we talked a little bit about it, like the recruiting process out of high school. To be part of that was pretty interesting. Getting letters from all kinds of places, and you know, Stan Wood at USC and Coach Marins and at UCLA, and UCLA was just getting their program started, and boy, did I want to go there. I really did. It was a hard, very difficult decision. Ohio State, I went back and visited, and took my other visit to Wake and Oklahoma State, and Coach Holder didn't think that I could make the golf team there at Oklahoma State. Being a kid from California, I wasn't ready to play in the conditions there, and I said, okay, good. I think I didn't really want to go to Stillwater anyway. I know Eric Evans is in the crowd here, and Eric went there, so sorry, Eric, but I wasn't going to go there. That wasn't going to happen. So that recruiting process, it came down to, man, I just, you know, I would have liked to have stayed home, but I thought if my game was going to progress any further, I had to go away, and I had to play in some elements that were not very good to the game. I couldn't play in a dome the rest of my life, so unfortunately, I didn't take that opportunity at UCLA. But Eddie's been, you know, Mr. Mayor's been awfully good to me ever since. So he never took it personally, hopefully. So it wasn't anything. I still remain a huge fan. But that was the process, and you know, at the time when alumni could actually help recruit, you can't do that now, I understand, or haven't for a while. I got a nice letter from Jack Nicklaus, and a beautiful letter, just a lot of really good things. And he knew my dad, obviously, from being back at Akron and around the game for, you know, he and my dad knew each other. And then about once a week, I'd get a phone call from Tom Weiskopf, and I'd be sitting at dinner, and the phone would ring. This is before, way before a cell phone. So the phone would ring, and my sister would get up from the dinner table and answer the phone. Hey, John, Tom's on the phone. And he would just check. He was always just checking in. So those were 2 pretty good influences to get back to Columbus. Obviously, Kenny wanted me to stay closer to California and home, but he also knew that he was going to be going to Florida. So it was an easy commute, really, from Columbus to Florida. So a kid coming from California to Ohio was, that first quarter was not, well, my first event I played in the snow in October, and I'm wondering, was this a good decision or not? And my girlfriend, now at the time was at Arizona State. Hey, we just, you know, it was 93 degrees here in October. It was beautiful. How was the weather there? Well, I just played a tournament in the snow. Can I come home? You know, so that's how that process went.
Well, neat story indeed. And is that a relationship, or those relationships with Weiskopf and Nicholas that you maintained throughout college? And
yeah, Jack has been really, really good to the Cook family. We remain, you know, very close to this day. We pretty much tended to be members at all his golf courses. As it turned out, as we came back, we were members at Bear Creek when it, back in the late '80s, early '90s. Back to we were actually members. My father joined Muirfield Village way back when. I actually had a house out there. When we got married, we had a house at Mission Hills, and then the house still there at Muirfield. So I joined the club as well. So Jan and I, we would take walks in the evenings. We had just had Kristen, so she was a little tyke, and I would walk and play golf, 5, 6 o'clock at night, and she would push the stroller up the cart paths, and I'd play, and we'd run into the Nicholas family. We'd play, Jack and Steve, and Jackie were out playing, and here I am, just got my little family and playing with Jack Nicholas, just Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock at night in the summertime. I mean, how great was that? So we remained pretty close all the way through, to this day. Tom, whenever he would come back to Columbus, would always give me a call, and we played a lot of golf together. We played a lot of practice rounds together. I did a lot of outings together. When I first turned professional, I signed with McGregor. Obviously a big influence from Jack and Tom and all that. So I was like the 6th man on the 5-man team. It was Nicholas Weiskopf, Ed Sneed, David Graham, and Ben Crenshaw, and me. This kid, some kid just out of college. So I got to do a lot of outings with them, but I stayed pretty close to Tom as well. Learned a lot from Tom. Tom always, one thing he talked about was, you could tell where his mind was going, and we know all the stories about Tom Weiskopf and how great and all that, but when we got on a golf course, he said, pay attention to what you're looking at. And I really didn't quite understand at the time what he was really talking about. He says, pay attention to the golf holes, where they go, how they routed, why are these trees here, why is this bunker here? And little did I know, he was getting into golf course design at the time. So everywhere we went, everywhere we played, whether it was at St. Andrews, Atlanta, wherever it was, there was a reason that he kept his eye open. That's why he does, some of the, finest golf courses, golf course work.
When you start to think about it from that perspective, you kind of get mad at the designer and go, why are they so mean?
Exactly. Boy, he had a bad day. You walked up on this green and went, yeah, perfect? Really? Yeah. You got humps and bumps and stuff all over. And you go, yeah, that's what he had in mind? Really?
Exactly.
Wow,
They're
okay.
trying to deceive you with that bunker.
Right, yes.
So really neat. And was there a lot of influence, like you said, you kind of overlapped a bit playing when you were playing professionally with Tom Weiskopf, with Jack Nicholas, actually out on the road, and just kind of what that was like. And
yeah, Venturi always talked about practice rounds and make them count. You're going to play courses that you don't know much about, so seek out those veterans. Go find. And I always had a game with Tom with Weiskopf, or I'd play 9 holes with Raymond, or I'd play 9 holes with Watson, or they didn't mind. They didn't mind having the younger players come out and actually pick their brain a little bit, and that helped a lot, especially around places like at Augusta and other places. But I think it got me comfortable in that environment. It got me understanding these are the greats of the game. I'm going to listen to these guys too. I've got this guy behind me watching me hit balls and helping me there, but now I'm gathering more knowledge from these other great players. So I was never afraid to ask to join in a group to go play a practice round, whether it was 9 holes or 18 or in a game, whatever it might have been.
Who would you say that you learned the most from if you had to pick one?
Probably Tom Weiskopf. Yeah, definitely. He was very, very kind, and like I said, he said, pay attention. This is what this does, and he was. We got to spend quite a bit of time together, and I don't stay that much in touch with him now, but through the 80s, we did a lot of things. We played a lot of golf.
So moving a little bit forward and talking about sort of the early Tiger days, if you would. We know that you and Marco Mira were almost a little bit of that same relationship that you had with the gentleman we were just speaking of, you know, somewhat of a mentor to him, although you probably don't like to take much credit for it. Could you elaborate a little bit on what that was like and what your relationship was like with him?
Yeah, I didn't know Tiger so much as a kid, although being in California, I mean, you hear the name and how great he was going to be and all that. And when he turned pro in '96, and he came out towards the end of the year and played some events, Mark, he actually went to Mark first, and he was a big influence in both IMG guys, and you know, Mark was at Isleworth in Orlando, and Tiger thought that was a great place to go and become. So Mark was really the first other professional that Tiger went to, and then being such a good friend with Mark, we started to play practice rounds together, whether it was at Orlando or in Vegas, for the Disney, and Tiger ends up winning a couple of events, and in 4 or 5 events gets in the Tour Championship at Southern Hills in '96. So that's when we really started talking a lot about pitching the golf ball out of the high rough, because the Bermuda rough there at Southern Hills is a lot different than anything he'd ever played in, and he couldn't do it. He didn't know what to do. So so we were just hitting pitch shots, and from then on he just would just kind of pick your brain a little bit. As great as he was, he knew, even after he had won the Masters in '97, he was never above asking questions and wanting to get better. And he was going through a bit of a swing change in '98 with Butch, but he still couldn't control wedges. He still couldn't control short irons. He didn't understand how to take something off of take spin off of a short iron. It was driving him crazy. He had the ability to do it. He just didn't know when or why or how to do it. And so he cornered me one time at Isleworth, and he just asked. He said, he never played the Hope, but he would watch golf all the time, especially if one of his friends was playing well. And he said, those shots that you hit on that hole, I couldn't believe that ball didn't spin, or why did you, from 120 yards, why'd you take out a 9 iron instead of a pitching wedge? So we started talking more about that, and his trajectory started to come down a little bit. He started to control his spin a little bit more, and those are things that he wanted to learn, because he knew his abilities were what they were. But to go to another level, he thought that he needed to understand on how to control trajectory and spin. And we were all too happy to help him, and he ascended fairly high after that. I remember a shot he hit one of the Masters a little bit later on. He won in '97. Did he win in '99? I think he might have. Does that sound right? He hit a shot on the 11th hole, and I'll never forget this. Whoever was the 11th hole commentator, and they said he had 140 yards down the hill to that front left hole location, and they were saying that this was like a gap wedge or a pitching wedge, and he took this swing, and it was so soft and so slow, and the ball, you could tell, it didn't go up in the air. It just kind of went down there nice and low, and it kind of hit that right part of the green, and kind of it didn't check and release. It just kind of checked and just kind of turned on down that hill, and so-and-so said, yeah, that was just a hard gap wedge. And I went, no. That was either a little 9, might even have been a little 8 iron. And sure enough, the next day he's back hitting golf balls on Monday morning at Isleworth, and I asked him about it, and he said, yeah, that was just a little 9 iron. I went, this game is over. Over. If that guy can hit it 330 and hit that shot from 140, sorry.
Yeah.
And now you have Dustin Johnson doing the same thing.
So on that note, do you still feel like he was the best in our game, or at least to this point?
Record-wise is what it is. As far as actual playing of the game of golf, I saw him do stuff never saw anybody else do. I got to play a lot of golf with Jack and a lot of golf I didn't get to see Mr. Hogan play. I know, Mr. Mariners, you've played probably a lot of golf with Mr. Hogan, and seeing all that, I'm not able to see that. But as far as actual playing of the game for that amount of time, I've never seen anything like it. I don't know how someone could be better than that. Just hitting shots that he could hit, and in all facets of the game. He was the best at everything. I mean, he was the best driver of the ball back in those days. He was the best long iron player. He was the best pitcher. He was the best putter. I mean, that's how you win by 15 at Pebble, I guess.
You're the best at everything, I guess.
He's best at everything, yeah. Number one. It's like Bernhard Langer right now. He's number one.
That guy.
Yeah, that guy. That's why I'm doing TV now, is because that guy.
So, obviously, from a physical standpoint, an amazing golfer. What about, did you get any insight into the mental aspect in your conversations with him?
Yeah, he really worked on a lot of that. He challenged himself with his routine and how he would prepare for events. Just watching him on the practice putting green, he had a drill that he used to do until he got it done, which was impossible. I never finished the drill. So, but that's how he worked on his mental aspect, is he got so into what he was doing, and so much, as we talked about, in his bubble, that he never got to a tournament unprepared. He prepared. By the time he got to the event, all he had to do was warm up and go play. He never had to prepare at the event. And we saw that with his preparation at Isleworth, and that span of golf that he played from '99 to about 2006 that's just crazy. Yeah, you can't make that. You can't write that.
Can you speak to a little bit of the competitive aspect, like we were talking with Amy and yourself, kind of having that fire and how it never goes away? I mean, and I know Jamie's had some conversations with him as well, and he's kind of said, like, this guy's just one of the most competitive, if not the most competitive person I've ever talked to. Like, he wants to win more than anybody. He
wanted to win at everything, and we'd get done playing, and those of you who'd been to Isleworth, there's a half-court basketball court in the men's grill room, and as soon as we were done playing and we were going to go into lunch, there was a horse game going on, and he'd never let up. He could shoot a ball too, so it was pretty fun. You saw the competitive aspect. Then there was a ping pong table right there, and then, sure enough, he'd start playing some ping pong, and you could see the fire and the competitiveness. And I'm sure he got that from father as well, and I also think he got it from just being challenged a little bit about the guys around the club. We would push him harder, and he would push us. So I think that, I know Mark and I both played some of our best golf later into our 40s, by being around him and being pushed by him as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank goodness you didn't take the coaching job.
Yeah.
And I want to talk a little bit about that here at Virginia Country Club too. Obviously a lot of tremendous young players to come out of the club in recent years, and you kind of getting to be the mentor to them. And just want to know a little bit more about, I got to watch it firsthand for quite some time, which was really special. But just, how that relationship works. And like you said, is it almost as much they're inspiring you as you are to them?
Well, completely. And it goes back to, my father wanted to pay Ken Venturi something for all the time that we would spend together. Almost after every session when I was a junior or in college, my dad wanted to pay him. He wanted to, offer, for your services, what do we owe you? Please, my gosh, this is, even well into my professional career, we were trying to figure out how to repay Ken Venturi. And every once in a while, I'd get him a driver, a Byron Nelson, McGregor 985 driver, which he loved. He'd put it in his shop and all that. And, that's the only thing you could do, but get him a nice bottle of wine or something. There's nothing else you could do. And he said, the only thing The only thing you could do to repay me is when you find somebody or some other young players, male or female, just pass down some knowledge. And never really had that chance until we spent some time around here. I would help some guys like with Tiger and just some of that. Help my son, of course. Kenny loved Jason, and he would try to help him as well through those younger years. But when the group started to come together, from Patrick being little skinny Patrick, just hanging around, tugging on your pant leg, hey, can we go play golf with you? To developing into what Patrick is now, and then seeing John Merrick grow up through here, and Pete, and Mally coming through, and it was so much fun to be part of that and just help them along, because playing the tour, getting ready to play the tour, and being a father on the tour, and traveling, and just all these kind of things that you could help with, but also preparing them on types of golf you're going to have to play. So that's what Kenny gave to me through all those years, and I was just more than happy to help in any way I could, to see these kids develop into the great players that they become. Luke came on board a couple years ago as well, and just to see the physical talent that a Luke List has, from that guy that led the driving distance, and that's all he really cared about, now to being one of the top players. So that's the progression that we like to see, is how are they developing as people, number one, and you can help with that as well, and how they're developing as players and professionals, because being a golf professional and professional golfer are two different things, and it all intertwines in there. And so any way that I could help them become professional golfers as well as the great people that they are, it's happy to do. It's so much fun, and I'm sure you guys see it around here. It brings so much joy to you knowing that you've been part of seeing Luke develop, and seeing Patrick develop, and seeing Mally and Pete having those great years, and John Merrick winning at LA. I mean, those are things that you just make you feel good, like you've contributed something.
So eloquently said, and you undoubtedly have. I think golf's a beautiful game in that regard, because there is just so much of that. I mean, there's people sitting in the room, even for me, and never, aspired as high, obviously, in competition as you did. But
there's a great connection in this game from way before me and my generation and my era to the generations before. Hopefully there's never a disconnect on the Saracens and the Hagans all the way down through the years. Sometimes there's a big disconnect in there, and I don't want to see that. I want to see this game connected all the way down the lineage, and if I can do just a little bit of part of helping keep that game connected, that's where I feel like I am now.
And can you reflect a little bit on how that has impacted your golf?
As presently? No, it has, and that's what it was. It was a connection between the eras.
Time when you were kind of transitioning to the Champions
Exactly, and I played well enough in my 50th year. I was 49 in 2006, and I actually played. I was exempt on the PGA Tour. I played well enough that year as a 49-year-old to have status on the PGA Tour, but I knew I was turning 50 to the weeks, the days, the hours, and the minutes. Once it kind of got pretty close. Yeah, the countdown. There was a countdown. Every time I drove through the front gate here, there was a countdown on my birthday, October 2nd, 2007. And so 2007 kind of started as my body didn't feel very good. I was sick all the time, and I just, God, why now? Why now? And then Jamie got me hooked up with actually your next speaker. Dr. Tim Brown basically saved my golfing career in a number of ways. Just fascinating talking to him, fascinating being around him, being worked on him, learning how to walk again properly. It is just he will blow your mind. I promise you. You will not meet a more genuine human being on this face of the earth than you will with Tim here in a few minutes. But so I got to be part of this whole program again, and then with the kids all playing well, and me now getting inspired. My body was feeling better, and these kids were pushing me and helping me. I was helping them. It got me rejuvenated again to, I really wanted to play the Champions Tour. I really did. But at 50, I wasn't feeling great. Do I really want to do this? And so I pursued the UCLA coaching job at one point, actually. Made it to the final two. But fortunately, I didn't get it. So I think it was fortunately or unfortunately. But anyway.
Thank you for that.
That's basically how it went. Yeah, that was it. That was it.
As Amy said, your inspiration comes from different places. At
Yes,
different
it
times,
does.
right?
Yeah, yeah. There's trigger words that
That's
will
good coaching.
click you. Yeah, it will click you right back into reality mode. But like I said, and like you were talking about, Shar, is I think they helped me as much as I could help them. And it's the way that Tiger, we're in our 40s, and he's making you feel younger because he's challenging you. If you're not very good, you can't play with him. He won't let you. He won't give you the time of day. So we kept getting better and better. Mark ends up winning a couple majors in his 40s. So, I kept winning some tournaments. So it was, I think they helped me as much, I think, as I helped them just by being around them and seeing their athleticism, seeing their enthusiasm, their willingness to learn, not having all the answers. And that's what's so great about this game. We don't have all the answers, so we're always seeking more knowledge, and you're seeking knowledge from people that have been there and experienced all this. So I was more than happy to be, that guy that helped, and then seeing Patrick develop from, 12 or 13 years old into the #1 amateur in the world, and who knows where he can go. I mean, we all know where he can go. And seeing the other guys enjoy some success on the PGA Tour, that's not easy. And they might be struggling in their mid-30s right now, but you know what? They did play the PGA Tour, and there are not many people that can say that they did that. And they played it at a very high level.
I think your point about teaching them how to do things outside of golf, or that are outside of what happens when you're standing over the golf ball. It's what is it like to travel? How do I manage my family while I'm doing this? And watching Jamie and his coaching, it's always become so much more about those things as the player's gotten better and better, especially the golf swing element of the puzzle is getting smaller and smaller, and it becomes more about kind of working on those other things and getting them synced up so you can go be in your bubble.
Exactly. That's it. Yeah. Stay in your bubble. Enjoy the walk.
So last question, you've obviously been around some amazing people in the game of golf. Is there anybody that you hadn't had an opportunity to play golf with that you would have liked to have, or maybe? It was
Mr. Hogan. I would have loved to have been out and been able to play. I played a little bit of golf with Mr. Nelson. He was long since retired, but that was just such an honor. And I think with Mr. Hogan, I got to watch him hit some balls a couple times and spent some time talking with him. And obviously, he respected my association and my relationship with Kenny. So, Amy said it, so well earlier that we have some great people in this game, and I've been lucky enough to enjoy and meet people outside the game that also love our game. And, some of those relationships have lasted a long, long time. And, I'm very blessed, very lucky to have, a great support team. Just around me, my family's always been great. My kids have understood. My wife been with me since we were 17 years old, so God bless her. Yeah. And then, having a great support system here at the Virginia Country Club. Jamie, when Kenny just couldn't do it any longer, Jamie was so happy to step in and be my eyes, because he observed some of the sessions that Kenny and I had, so he understood exactly what we were doing. And to have Jamie then come on board and help me along then for the next 10 years of competing at this game. So.
Football coach.
Son of a football coach, yep. Yeah, Jamie's exactly right. Like I said, I've had a great support team, and I love this game so much that I wanted to stay part of it, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now as far as television. Not that I ever thought that I could put two words together. I couldn't speak when growing up. I mean, I've known Mike Barroso all my life, and he probably never heard me say 10 words in a row till I was 25 years old. So, like I said, I love this game so much, and I wanted to see it keep growing, that I want to still be part of it. And if I can't do it competitively, maybe I can do it by words. And I'm learning at that as well. So, yeah, like I said, I've been lucky, I've been blessed, and I couldn't love a game any more than I do this game.
I think that sentiment is shared by everybody in the room. Well, thank you so much, John. You've been so gracious with your time as always. Appreciate your wonderful insights. I'll give you a little send-off. Can we have a hand for Mr. Cook?
Oh, thank you very much.